people look at trade. What is trade? People say it's the exchange. So the trade and the AFCFTA forms one of the projects of the AU 2063 agenda. So what is trade? You hear trade, people say it was the exchange of goods and services. But fundamentally, trade goes beyond that. If you study human history, people have survived through trade. So there's a whole thing about anthropology. When the first human beings, so we say Homo sapien, came from Africa, right? They were within the African continent. They migrated. When things got hard, they began to move. Because human beings do that, they move. They move whether it's for food or because of climate. So when they moved, one of the first places that they went to was Australia. And history has it that because it was just a family of people, when they were there, the conditions got very harsh. So they started to move, the family started breaking away. But those who stayed in that small place, that same family that stayed amongst themselves, they began dying amongst themselves. We already know what stayed in one place. The only way they were able to now survive was that they began to move at some point, and then they went and met the same people who were with them years later, who had left. And then they began to trade amongst themselves. And it says by anthropology that that's how they survived. Because trade beyond goods and services, even when you say prostitution, that's trade, because you are giving something, you are receiving. It's an exchange of a service. So we are exchanging, even right now we are talking, and maybe you're going to share something with me, we are trading. So when we hear trade, we shouldn't think of only, okay, I don't sell anything. It's not only commerce, and commerce covers anything that can be commodified. Even if it's your gift or your talent or how you draw or how you explain things, the mere fact that you are exchanging it for some form of payment or exchanging it for whether it's for time, you're exchanging it for something back, that's trade. So now, why is Africa looking at the AFCFTA? Because for a long time, so I did WTO law, and for a long time, the WTO, we've been having so many cases because all the best natural resources come from here. But we don't determine our prices because we've entered, I have to go into so many things, but we've entered into so many agreements because of loans that have made it very difficult. So let's say, for example, Ghana had an agreement with the Chinese for a dam that they built. And in the agreement, the thing was that, okay, instead of paying this way, you're going to pay by giving us some kind of discount with your cocoa for a number of years. So the price at which the Chinese will buy our Ghanaian cocoa is not the same price as which other people will buy. And it may be an unfair price, but that's how that's what they are taking. They have asked to take that for a number of years. It may not be fair just because they've done it down for us. So agreements like this affect the prices of your goods. So we realize that as a continent, we are not really making much from trade. Beyond that, we also realize that trade within Africa is very small. Actually, stats show that trade, intra-African trade only consists of, is only 16% of trade that happens within the continent. And so, but if we trade amongst ourselves, we are able to actually bring in $3.4 trillion as a continent. It's also showing, and then evidence shows that, when we when we begin to come together in trade, as a continent, by 2022, we'll be able to double our trade engagements by, we'll be able to come to 52.3% and be able to bring in every country 34.6 billion into their country if they begin to trade. We begin to trade as amongst ourselves as a continent. And so this is why the whole AFCFTA is being instituted. And what does intra-African trade do? So it's supposed to, trade or global trade through a free trade area is supposed to remove tariffs. Tariffs are the taxes that you put on the goods. So if goods like chicken is coming into Ghana from America, it will come into Ghana maybe at a particular price. But then they'll say, you know what, you are coming into Ghana, you're coming at a free, you're not paying anything anymore. So, but the only thing is that when you come in the free trade area, when I go to the supermarket and I'm buying chicken from, let's say, Kenya, and I'm buying chicken from Ghana, once we are within the free trade agreement, there shouldn't be any price difference. So that's what free trade agreements do. So within the agreement also, some countries will say, look, maybe chicken is a very sensitive area for our country. We get a lot of money from there. So rather we'll have that, don't touch the area of maybe chicken, but we'll open up maybe the tomato industry or rice industry, so that if you are bringing in anything from those spaces, they can be at the same price. So the whole idea is to make trade easy, so that as I'm in Ghana, I can be consuming tea from Rwanda or Kenya, consuming beef from Uganda or whatever. So the whole idea is that when we do that, we'll create jobs, and then we'll be able to develop and even raise enough funds so we don't have to depend so much on loans. So then, I don't even like to have to run my mouth. I would like when it's so interactive. But fundamentally, so the whole AFCFTA is to really bring Africa to a point where we can be economically independent. Prior to the AFCFTA, we had agreements that were, running in the continent. We had what we call the Lome Convention, and that was an agreement between Africa and the EU to facilitate trade. And with that, it meant that our market, in the Lome Convention, it was only specific colonies that had that agreement. It was called preferential agreement. So it was former British colonies, French colonies, and Belgian colonies that were allowed to be in that agreement. So that was between Africa, the EU, the Caribbean countries, and then the Pacific countries. But now they moved, when they realized that that convention wasn't doing well, they moved to a Cotonou agreement. And then in that agreement was supposed to facilitate trade still between the EU and Africa for more of economic independence. But these agreements haven't done much because they've always focused on Africa and the North, not Africa within itself. So the whole idea is that with the AFCFTA, we are strengthening ourselves to speak with one voice on the global market. We are saying that if in West Africa, Ghana and Ivory Coast are doing cocoa, we'll put one price on our products and sell. Because speaking with one voice makes you stronger. Let's say beef. Ethiopia is the highest producer of beef. Ethiopia, I think you have Uganda. Rwanda is one of them. If they come together and they say, okay, you know one thing, we are going to speak with one voice. We'll put a price on our beef. What will happen is that the value of your beef will be higher because even the EU produces beef, right? When you go to the supermarket and you see beef from Europe or European beef, it's more expensive than your local beef, right? Because they imported it. But there's equally good beef without any genetically modified ingredients coming from East Africa. So now, how do we now make sure that, okay, if I'm now in Ghana, beef is expensive, even local beef. So now imagine that if Uganda, Ethiopia, Rwanda, the beef is cheaper, how do we open our market to allow their beef to come in? So we don't spend so much. And maybe, yes, we'll still produce beef, but we can't produce on a large quantity because we don't have as much arable land as they do in East Africa. So we are looking at each other's strengths to say, how do we tap into that and then utilize it and even strengthen that to be able to compete globally. Another typical example would even be milk. So for example, milk I heard that someone, I don't know, I'm not from Uganda, anyone from Uganda here can tell me, someone told me that milk is sold in tanks. In Ghana, when it comes to milk, we have milk in, they call it condensed milk. A lot of people have never even tasted for beef fresh milk here. So someone told me, man, milk is sold the way you guys buy water when your taps go off. I was like, really? So I was just thinking, imagine how if we open up our markets, then even things like food, because poverty is so high, people don't even have decent food. And maybe in one country, food is not a big deal. Or farmland, because I have to go to Ghana because I'm Ghanaian. Ghana, our country is not as big. And you have, let's say, Congo, the DRC, arable land, the rainfall. So I'm just like, imagine if we're now, the vegetables were coming from there, then it will make life so much easier. We don't have to spend so much money, go to a farmer's market just to eat, vegetables that they brought from abroad. You don't even know, what they put on it. And at the end of the day, you are strengthening other economies and your economy is losing. Another thing I was also going to mention was that when we even do things like this, when we begin to trade amongst ourselves, cooperation is easier. Thank God right now we don't have so much, we don't have inter-African conflict. So, but we do have maybe intra-African tensions. But when people are making money, nobody is thinking, oh my God, I don't like this person. Because at the end of the day, poverty breeds strife. So when there's development, when there's growth, when people are getting jobs, there's less of these, we don't have so many issues with internal conflicts. If Somalia, if African countries came together, maybe the older generation, there are too many problems, but with this younger generation, knowing that Somalia is more than the conflict you hear about. This is a rich nation that is sitting on unnecessary turmoil. What can we do to collaborate with young Somalis and say, what do you guys need? How can we work together? Maybe the people who are there now, we can't move them because maybe they are sitting there and they are playing on the politics. But in our generation, how do we link up with other Somalis and say, hey, how do we work together? Or you link up with your friend from Botswana. Botswana has, when it comes to cows, there is an abundance. Okay, you know one thing, what can we do? Can I partner with you? Let's start some beef business. So this is really much putting the agenda, because the agenda is nice on paper. And I don't want to disappoint you, but the AU has a lot of initiatives, but it's heavily funded by the US and Europe. Now, so at the end of the day, if you're asking for some kind of independence and someone is feeding you, you can't say you're independent. How do you compete? How do you have a competitor if your competitor is the one who's supporting you? We want to be the generation that moves beyond dependence to a level of independence. And that can only come by when we collaborate and we work together. When we say, what do you have? What do I have? And so the way that, and I'm going to say that the agenda I can read is so broad. I can read so many things to you today. I used to be part of a group called the Young African Thinkers, and I went for one of the conferences, and they were telling me things that they went through, even getting funding from the AU. So someone's going to ask, okay, so now that the AU has said this, what's going to happen? Well, the AU's agenda is supposed to, first of all, be implemented within the region. So let's say ECOWAS will implement it for West Africa, COMESA will do it for East Africa, SADC will do it for Southern Africa, SACU, all of the groups will do it. But before the regional bloc will even do it, they themselves don't even get along, unfortunately. There's politics there. Before it comes to your government, then it has to go to parliament. When it goes to parliament, some of the policies are even there. They may even give funding. And who gets the funding? The same people, maybe the political elite or those who are voting this party. So I don't want to burst your bubble, but I think there's the hope that we have as a people is not to look, yes, you need government, but we should stop looking at, okay, now what can government do? What can I do in my own small way to make this agenda concrete? So while you are in school or you are doing whatever, your job or whatever, find out somebody who is doing something. Entrepreneurship is not about, okay, I'm not a business person, but it's all about solving problems. Maybe you can't come up with a business idea, but you can support somebody and you guys will start something small and build it from there. I was going to mention the fact that the whole idea of an agenda or an initiative, it can't exist. They are just words. The only way they become tangible is when we embody them. And to embody the AFCFTA global trade, I was telling someone, we need roads. We don't even, within my own country, the roads are a problem. There's politics behind roads. You do one road after 2 days, or one, when I say 2 days, that's an exaggeration, but a couple of months, the road is already bad. So we're thinking of ways, how do we see a network that connects? So I want to even read this to you. There's a whole initiative for roads, because you can't do trade if you don't have logistics in place, right? The infrastructure to facilitate the trade. So there's this thing called the Trans-African Highway Network. So there are roads that can be connected, that can connect Cairo and Dakar. There's another network that can connect the Algiers and Lagos. One that can connect Tripoli, Windhoek. Windhoek is in Namibia. Tripoli, Windhoek, and Cape Town. There's a road that can connect Cairo, Gaborone, and Cape Town. There's a road that can connect Dakar and N'Djamena. There's a road that can connect N'Djamena and Djibouti. There's a road that can connect Dakar and Lagos and Mombasa, and then Beira, and then Lobito. So can you imagine driving from Lagos all the way to Kenya? It will make life so much easier. And so, because obviously we have to go by sea, we are looking at going all around, right? That's why even trade between East and West Africa is not so common. So these are the things that they want to do, right? They come up with these policies. So what we could do as youth is maybe, how do we help this thing to become practical, right? I thought of the Bernie Sanders. I was telling someone the Bernie Sanders movement was really pushed by citizens. What did they do? They did crowdfunding. So maybe we don't have to wait to have plenty money. They always say, oh, we don't have enough money. Maybe if there's a project that the AU is trying to do and you think it makes sense, what can we do as citizens to raise the fund? They are asking citizens to push this initiative, right? Maybe we don't have to wait for $1 million. What can we do small? So the whole thing is that, my thing is to all of us sitting here today is that it's good that we know about AFCFTA. Unfortunately, it's been postponed because right now we are dealing with the COVID. The idea now is that, how can they use the AFCFTA to push pharmaceuticals? Because all the medicines, majority of the medicines that are being made, the natural things come from here. But what happens? Pharmaceutical companies like Big Pharma, these foreign companies take these things and they go and make their drugs and they sell it very high. You can't buy. So what do we do in terms of our medicines here to produce them? Well, we need to collaborate. But these are government things, because now it is government of Ghana with government of Nigeria, this, or maybe ECOWAS agreeing that, okay, paracetamol will do at this price, sell it within Africa. But even before they will do that, they're now thinking of the people who are giving you a loan, IMF, giving you conditions. So there are so many things, but our generation can be the generation, because the government is the people. We can be the generation that would change the trajectory of how people see things being accomplished, whereby we are waiting for some grand scheme, paperwork or something, but in our small way, forming communities to do something. So I have friends from different parts of Africa, and we met in India. We used to talk about things we'll do together as a team, and talking to them, hearing even my friends from Congo, what they went through in the DRC, because that country is so rich. And we're like, okay, what can we do eventually? I was like, hey, maybe we can start a farm over there. So small things, get to know other people, other young Africans, share ideas, and then we see how we can usually, try to build from there. I know my session, I'm supposed to actually speak for maybe about an hour, but I don't want to do that. I think it becomes boring. But I think it would be great if we could make this next part of my session interactive. So anybody who has any thoughts or ideas can share, because I prepared a lot of things, but I don't want this to be, I started in class, I've done work about the AU, everything. But when you finish school and you come back home and you're facing a reality, it's not what is on paper that is there. You are facing the fact that you're looking for work. When you're a woman, you go for a job, the things you need to go through, you're asking yourself, how will I change Africa like this? Or you're driving in traffic, people cannot even be in one line, and you're asking yourself, are these the people you're supposed to work with to make Africa better? So how do we? And so for me, it's like I don't have all the answers.
Thank you so much. So our interactive session is about to begin. Please, you can put your questions right there. Put your questions in the chat box as well, and then I'll unmute you for you to